I came across a trending post on Reddit. In the photo there it was, the necklace I had personally picked out for my daughter. I still remember how happy she was when she received it. She kept saying how lucky she was to have the best mom in the world. But the post itself told a very different story. It painted me as a cold, manipulative mother, someone who only used money to control her child. If this was the narrative she wanted the world to believe in order to achieve whatever plan she had in mind, fine. I would give her exactly what she wanted. I would take everything back. Let the lie become her truth. It was just another ordinary evening when I found that post. The weather was pleasant, the office lights warm and calm. I was lounging on the sofa, half focused on replying to emails, half scrolling mindlessly through Reddit. I rarely use the platform. Lately, though, I'd been checking it more often because someone on our PR team suggested it was a useful tool for tracking online mentions of our brand. Then a hot post landed in my feed. The title struck me bold and oddly familiar. My mom only remembers I exist when she needs something from me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Reddit's flooded with posts about parents. Some exaggerated, some deeply painful. But then I saw the image attached. That olive green gemstone brooch. 5 years ago, I had it custom-made by a designer for Ashley's birthday. We were in New York that year. Dinner was at that little Italian place in Soho. He hugged me that night, beaming. "I'll wear this forever," she said. I tapped on the profile. It was her. No doubt about it. Even with the alias and the blurred-out background, the silhouetted photo she used. Its lighting, the angle, the curtain pattern in the back. It matched the selfie she'd sent me not too long ago. My stomach clenched. But I didn't close the page. Line by line I kept reading. My mom walked out when I was 2. Left me with my dad and grandma. I don't even know what she was doing all those years. Every phone call felt like a business meeting. Transactional. She said she was working hard for my future. But the moment she started making money, she didn't come back for me. She bought herself a new car. Upgraded her house. Rumor has it she's dating some younger guy. Yeah, she gave me a lot of gifts. But so what? That was just guilt money. She always says I should be grateful. But she's never there when I actually need her. Hundreds of comments followed. Mostly sympathy and encouragement. She doesn't deserve a daughter like you. Classic narcissist behavior. Only reaching out when they want attention or validation. You've done more than enough. I couldn't tell you how I made it through those thousands of words. My fingers were trembling on the mouse. I stared at the photos she'd posted. My handbag, the MacBook Pro I gave her, that deep blue Model Y. In my office, right behind me in a side cabinet, was her upcoming gift for grad school. Already wrapped. The latest tablet, an ultralight laptop, and a signed deed transfer for a newly renovated 2-bedroom condo in Boston, just a 15-minute walk from her campus. I'd hoped it would be a step toward healing our relationship. No. It felt like someone had poured a bucket of ice water over my head. I minimized the browser. Sat there in silence for a few seconds. Then opened my notes app and deleted the message I had drafted for her card. She wrote that I only remember her when I need her. But every wire transfer I made this year, every package I sent had been for her birthday, the start of a new semester, the end of finals, a move, a breakup. Even those heels she posted recently, I recognized them. A limited edition pair I'd brought back from Paris. She said I wasn't there when she needed me. And I just wanted to ask, when exactly have you ever actually needed me? I didn't cry. But in that moment I knew I had to read everything. Every post. Every comment. Every carefully phrased update in her history. I had to know, at what point did my daughter start rewriting me in places I couldn't see into someone else? Into that stranger she now called Mom. I spent the entire night digging through Ashley's anonymous Reddit account. Some of the posts dated back 4 years, when she just started college. I remember that Thanksgiving. We were together in Massachusetts, sharing turkey at the table. She sat beside me, laughing as she helped me pick out a wine. She wore that camel-colored wool coat I had given her. But at the exact same time she was posting this. She called again, said she wanted to spend the holiday together. I know she's just lonely. I'm her last resort. It's like she never actually loved me, she just needs me to fill the hollow parts of her life. Reading that felt like staring into a mirror and seeing someone else's reflection. I couldn't bring myself to respond to her last message. Not even to say hello. I sat at my desk, the lights still on, the screen still glowing. But my mind had drifted to an afternoon from over a decade ago. Back then I wasn't Charlotte McNeil. I wasn't the founder of E.L. Carter. I was a 28-year-old mother holding a feverish 1-year-old in the ER waiting room, with less than $200 to my name. Alan, my then-husband and Ashley's father, was drunk. He had smashed my phone, wrecked our TV. It wasn't the first time he'd gotten violent. A neighbor called the police. That was my first encounter with a domestic violence file. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep living like this. I had no parents to call, no friends willing to get involved. All I had was an overdrawn credit card and a few unpaid invoices from small clients. Not even enough for a lawyer. But I had to leave. I did want to take Ashley with me. But then Alan's mother showed up, unannounced, crying to the police about how I was unstable. She told the neighbors I had delusions, that I was unfit to be a mother. Alan played along. He wept in front of the officers, acted like father of the year in court. They hid Ashley so well I couldn't even find her. Every time I went to her school they blocked me from picking her up. No authorized guardian, no release. Eventually, the judge ruled that I didn't have the financial capacity to provide for her, and granted full custody to Alan, the man who played his part to perfection. I was 28 years old when I first learned how legal systems could be weaponized under the mask of performance. I had no choice. I started working like hell. I opened a 100-square-foot studio on the west side of Los Angeles. I worked as an assistant during the day and took custom orders at night. Sometimes I'd be packing shipments at 3 a.m. I didn't get custody, but I sent child support checks every month. Birthday gifts always on time. I tried to stay connected in my own way. She would write back. I still carry a note she wrote in 3rd grade. I wore the dress you sent. Everyone in class said I looked like a movie princess. Thank you, Mommy. It's tucked into my wallet. The paper is soft, creased beyond recognition. But I've never been able to throw it away. Eventually, my business started gaining traction. E.L. Carter began as a simple accessories line. Then I partnered with a lifestyle brand to roll out a full package collection. That year, Ashley entered high school. I bought her a MacBook for the first time. She was thrilled. She called me on FaceTime and said, "Mom, this laptop is so cool. All my friends are jealous." But I truly thought we were mending things. I was so wrong. Because the story she wrote on Reddit was nothing like the one I lived. In her version, I'm the absent, silent, indifferent mother. The one who left, never checked in, never showed up. Yes, I gave her money. A house. The newest iPhone. But in her post she wrote, she thinks she can buy her way back into my life. But some things were never for sale. I don't deny her grief. She was only 8 when I chose to leave. I missed years of her childhood while I built my business. By the time I finally stood on my own stage, she had already learned to view me through the script written by her father. But what I never expected was for her to take those wounds and parade them online, for strangers to dissect, to validate, to share. For her to turn our pain into content. I used to believe Ashley had just been misled. Maybe it was Alan's influence or her grandmother's words that shaped her. But no, I'm not so sure. She's not just recounting trauma. She's building a persona, one of the abandoned daughter who rose above it all. She says she doesn't need me. Yet everything she flaunts, her jewelry, her handbags, the vacations she brags about, they all came from me. I locked my phone. The house was so quiet I could hear the wind brushing against the window panes. I stood up and walked to the bookshelf. Then I reached for the black file folder. Inside the black folder were all the documents I'd quietly gathered for Ashley over the years. Bank transfers, real estate deeds, insurance policies, her childhood medical records, and copies of my email threads with attorneys. This wasn't about revenge. I just needed to understand, at what point did I become the cold, calculating, bad mom she described to the world? The one who only showed up for attention, who weaponized money as love. I needed time. And more than anything, I needed the truth. This was not the time to be soft. I had to see things clearly now, even if it meant admitting the most painful thing of all. The daughter I cherished with every ounce of my love, the child I had built my life around protecting, was no longer who I thought she was. I've never considered myself naive. Over the past 20 years, I've faced every kind of deception. Contracts laced with traps, partnerships that turned on a dime, business meetings where smiles masked knives. My office bookshelf is lined with ledgers chronicling these battles. But I never imagined I'd need to summon that same level of vigilance to confront my own daughter. I archived every post from her Reddit account. Screenshots, timestamps categorized by content. I even compared the time she messaged me with the time she was posting. She would text me, "I miss you so much, Mom," then post publicly, "Another FaceTime with her tonight. He's so pitiful. I don't want to be the one who breaks her." At first I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was just venting. Maybe she misunderstood me. Maybe she'd been caught in a low mood. But the more I read, the more curated it all became. Better photos, sharper captions, carefully chosen language. This wasn't spontaneous. It was a constructed narrative. I'm not a tech wizard, but I asked one of our content interns, bright kid, digital native, to help me analyze her account's traffic and content strategy. She skimmed through a few posts and said, "Someone's helping her. This isn't amateur work. Structure, timing, tags. This is coordinated." I nodded and wrote one name in my notebook. Alan. Ashley's father. He never changed. He never will. Alan was charming when we met. Tall, warm smile, smooth talker. But behind closed doors he was possessive, narcissistic, and obsessed with control. When I started my business, he'd sneer, calling me unfocused and shameless for stepping into the public eye. When I gained traction, he said I'd abandoned the family. When the money started rolling in, he wept in front of Ashley and whispered, "Your mom left us. She only cares about money." I thought we'd cut all ties years ago. But now I realize, I underestimated how he used Ashley as a tether, a way to keep poisoning the well between us. Fully. Relentlessly. I remembered a conversation from a couple of years ago. Ashley had messaged me, "Dad's sick. His medical bills are piling up." Without a second thought, I transferred the money. She texted, "Thank you, Mom." Now I'm almost certain that money never saw a hospital. It went straight into Alan's pocket. And if her online persona was something they built together, Alan would be reaping every bit of it. He's always excelled at playing the wounded, innocent father. The puppet master hidden in the shadows. Maybe at first Ashley was just repeating what she'd been taught. But now, with her knowledge of platform growth, monetized posts, fan donations, this is no longer passive. She's a full partner in it. I turned back to my laptop and logged into the E.L. Carter backend. We'd been preparing a new campaign titled Second Acts, a collaboration with a nonprofit helping single women re-enter the workforce. The theme felt close to home. Initially, I'd planned to join later under my personal name. But now I was changing course. I needed to prepare, not to fight, not to beg for understanding, but to protect myself. To protect the empire I'd spent 15 years building from the ground up. One that could crumble under the weight of an unchecked narrative. I began reworking my public presence. I reached out to Cindy, our most empathetic livestream host, and asked her to center next week's session around a new prompt. Are single moms ever what you think they are? I didn't mention Ashley. I just wanted to hear how the audience responded. I needed to gauge what the world still had space to believe. Then I contacted our editorial team and requested a short-form video. The title? The Mother Who Wasn't There, Still Fought. I wouldn't come out and say it was my story. But I needed those who'd only heard Ashley's version to at least encounter another voice. A different note. I'd already lost the power to tell my side once, in my marriage. I wouldn't lose it again. And this time it wasn't just about me. It was for the women who were constantly defined by others. For the mothers rebuilding from rubble. For the ones who were never perfect, but who deserved to be heard. I closed the notebook gently and exhaled. "Alan," I whispered, "you still don't know what I'm capable of. This time, you don't get to write my story using someone else's voice." I knew I had to find a way to talk to Ashley. Not a confrontation. Not a showdown. Just a test. Like walking a tightrope. I couldn't lay all my cards on the table, not yet. The truth too soon would only push her further away. She'd slammed the door in my face like she always did. But I needed to know where she stood now. Was she still lost in someone else's story, or had she learned to perform it by heart? So I called her. Not from my personal line but my work phone. She picked up quickly, her tone light. "Mom? What's with the surprise call?" I heard wind in the background. She was outside somewhere. "I was just thinking about you," I said with a soft laugh. "Work's finally calmed down. Thought I'd check in. How's the new semester?" "It's fine," she replied, her voice pausing slightly. "The workload's kind of insane though. One professor's impossible to follow. I'm drowning in lab reports. Maybe I could come visit? There was a hitch in the silence. You're coming to Boston? I've been thinking about it. And maybe bringing someone with me. The wind noise faded. The line got very still. Someone. Who are you bringing? I let the silence hang a beat, like I was carefully choosing my words. A friend. Someone I've been seeing. Thought maybe it's time you met. The pause on her end stretched. Then a laugh, thin tight. A friend? Like, dating kind of friend. Yes, I said evenly, forcing calm into my voice even as something in my chest wound tight. We've known each other a few months. She didn't say anything. I waited, half expecting a joke, a playful jab, maybe even a polite congratulations. Instead, her voice dropped, sharp with disbelief. So this is serious? I heard the edge in her tone, sharp and rising. He's a good man, I said quietly. We're not planning a wedding or anything. But so far, it's been good. And you want me to meet him because you think he's going to be your life partner? She snapped. Is this because you're scared to grow old alone? So now you're rushing to find some younger guy to babysit you. The words hit like a slap. And she wasn't done. Do you even hear yourself? This is pathetic. You really think I'm going to stick around forever? Now you're just finding someone else to share the inheritance with. That last line cracked across the phone like a whip. I opened my mouth to speak, but she was already spiraling. You say you love me, and the moment I start grad school you pull this? You never think about my future. You just want to live your little fantasy, show off your new life, like some teenager. I didn't respond right away. Her breathing had gone ragged, like a cornered animal, all claws and fury. After a few seconds I said, Ashley, you know the apartment near campus? The one I was planning to sign over to you. The silence on her end was deafening. I inhaled deeply. I've decided to hold off on that plan. Her voice cracked like glass. What? I'm not sure you're in the right place to receive it, I said softly but clearly. She exploded. Don't you dare take that back. Don't think for a second I'll ever call a washed-up woman like you my mother again. I said nothing. She went to say more, but I had already pressed the button and ended the call. I sat in the living room staring blankly out the window, my mind drifting to a much younger version of her. Ashley had always been a gentle child. Quiet, cautious. She used to whisper when she asked for things. She loved to draw, loved bubblegum soda, and in winter she'd burrow into my coat to keep warm, biting the tip of her finger as we watched cartoons. How does that child become this? I've asked myself that more than once. She was 8 the first time I tried to bring her home with me. My finances had finally stabilized and I thought I was ready. It was a cold winter weekend. I packed her things and went to get her. Her grandmother blocked the doorway. She doesn't love you anymore, she told Ashley. You'll never be happy with her. Ashley just stood there. Wide eyes. No tears. Just blank. Her grandmother didn't stop. She kept throwing knives. She's nothing. She won't make it. She's just acting like a good mother for show. I didn't realize it back then, but Ashley had already been living in that poison for years. Soaking in it. Letting it settle into her bones. After that, every time I tried to visit there was an excuse. She's busy. She's not home. She has class. I wrote her letters, rarely got replies. I called, she answered coldly if at all. Once she said to me, Grandma says you only come around so you can prove you're still alive. She was 10 when I first heard those words. I thought she'd grow up and see the truth. I was wrong. She didn't choose forgiveness. She chose a different narrative. In her version, I divorced for selfish reasons. The gifts I gave were tokens of guilt. And now, dating someone new meant I was trying to steal her future inheritance. All these years she's lived between two realities. One I've worked tirelessly to build and one that was handed to her like a script. She chose the latter. Wore it like armor. Sealed tight. Now when she looks at me she doesn't see a mother. I'm just the foil in her story. A prop to prove how hard she's worked, how much she's overcome, how tragic her origin was. I used to believe that if I just kept trying, kept giving, kept showing up, she'd eventually step out of the shadows. But now I understand. It's not that she couldn't see. It's that she didn't want to. Because the identity of the wounded daughter is too useful. It earns her sympathy. It brings her followers. And it keeps me under control. What she doesn't realize is real control isn't shouting the loudest. It's giving someone the option to choose better. And that's what I gave her. A way out. But she chose the path that leads to leverage, not love. The day after our call, she posted a short video. I didn't follow her account, but platform analytics flagged it to me. The lighting was soft. The framing careful. She sat in her dorm room, her tone wistful and wounded. Sometimes you think you're everything to her. But she's just waiting for someone else to replace you. She says she loves me, but she didn't even care where I was living my first semester. The comments section lit up with support. Sounds just like my mom. She's manipulating you with money, classic narcissist move. I wish my mom was just a normal woman, not some controlling show-off. I watched the video and surprisingly, I felt calm. This was her answer to our call. When I didn't give her what she wanted, she turned to the court of public opinion to pressure me. But this time she miscalculated. In the following days, I muted every notification linked to her accounts. Not to run away, but because I knew what was coming. Ashley doesn't take no quietly. Even over the smallest things. Like when I once failed to deliver a pair of limited edition sneakers on time due to a shipping delay, she bombarded me with texts and angry voicemails accusing me of doing it on purpose. So I wasn't surprised when I canceled the Boston property transfer and the storm followed. It didn't take long. Friday night, I was still in the office reviewing design mock-ups when Cindy burst in from the livestream studio, headset still on. "Charlotte," she panted, handing me a tablet, "you need to see this." Ashley had just posted a new video. This time she used her real name. She was wearing the beige wool coat I'd given her. Scented candles flickered in the background. The lighting was dimmed for that cozy late-night confessional vibe. The opening line hit hard. "Have you ever had your own mother use money to emotionally blackmail you?" Then she told a story. A carefully shaped tale of a lonely, overbearing mother who used gifts to buy affection and manipulated her daughter with guilt. She looked tearful. Eyes glistening. Said she was always too afraid to speak her truth because people would call her ungrateful. The comments poured in. "This hit too close to home. She just wants you to orbit her like a lapdog. You're so brave. Keep speaking out." I watched all 5.5 minutes of it. My body went cold, but my mind was clearer than ever. This wasn't just a lie. This was an attack. Ashley used her platform and her title of daughter to call for a boycott of my brand. She even uploaded a blurred photo, me supposedly on a date with a younger man. She wasn't telling a story anymore. She was declaring war. I closed the tablet and turned to Cindy. "Get the backup footage ready," I said. "I'll be going live tomorrow. Myself." She nodded, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. But her voice was steady. "It's time." I'd waited long enough. I wasn't caught off guard. Not really. 2 years ago, when Ashley first started building her social presence, Luke, her current boyfriend, entered the picture. He was charming in that overly rehearsed way, smiling just a little too wide. At our first dinner together, he glanced at my wine glass and said, "Wow, still drinking reds at your age? Respect." I laughed it off at the time, thinking he was just immature. But looking back now, it was pure condescension. Yes. I used to believe Ashley's behavior was all the result of Alan's indoctrination. But recent investigations told a different story. Luke isn't just the boyfriend. He's a partner in the strategy. My team dug into the back end of her account. We found the names listed under content investment and media ops. One shell company. Registered to Luke. This wasn't about self-expression. Ashley was the product. And I, her villain. The worse I looked, the better her narrative sold. I glanced at the plaque in the corner of my office. Women in Business Leadership Award. I'd accepted it in San Francisco last May. Ashley had texted me that day. "Proud of you, Mom." Now I realized. That was probably part of the script too. At 10 a.m. the next morning, I stepped into the livestream studio. This wasn't a product pitch. It was a special segment I titled, "What You See Isn't Always the Truth." I never mentioned Ashley's name. Not once. I didn't call out her account. I simply told a story as myself. I spoke about a woman who rebuilt her life after domestic abuse. About starting a business from scratch while saving every spare dollar for her daughter's future. About birthdays spent wondering, did I miss the moment she grew up? Then I held up the evidence. Screenshots of bank transfers. court rulings, police reports, and the little treasures I had kept from Ashley's childhood. This drawing, I said, holding up a crinkled piece of paper. She made it when she was 6. He told me I was her favorite person. She drew me holding her. The chat, once noisy and divided, went completely still. Then someone wrote, "You've always been there. We just only heard one side." More comments followed. "I've never met my mom either. My dad made sure of that. But she still wrote letters. Still sent clothes. Society is always ready to hear a child's pain. But whoever asks what the mother went through?" By the time the stream ended, viewership had surpassed our expectations tenfold. Cindy messaged me privately. "This is the first time you've truly shown up." I nodded quietly. I didn't need to say a word. That same night, Ashley's video was still making the rounds online. But something had shifted. New comments began surfacing in her feed. Clips from my livestream. Side-by-side comparisons. Ashley wearing my brand's coat, carrying the bag I gifted her. And then, "You say your mom was never there, but your entire aesthetic screams she was." After the livestream, I didn't immediately return to the spotlight. It wasn't retreat. It was strategy. I knew that night had only marked the beginning of a deeper battle. In today's world, truth and perception are not the same. People don't believe what's accurate. They believe whoever speaks first. Whoever cries harder. Whoever tells the more compelling version. And for the first time, I had started telling mine. I went silent for 3 days. No posts. No updates. But our brand's backend kept buzzing. Cindy sent me screenshots. Reddit threads dissecting Ashley's posts had started showing cracks. Didn't she say her dad paid for her apartment? But I swear last year she said it was a gift from both parents. Which is it? She says her mom's controlling. But who paid for her college and grad school? That part's always fuzzy. I used to really feel for her, but now I'm not so sure. Some stuff just isn't adding up. Ashley's team scrambled. They deleted comments like wildfire. But I knew. Once a dam leaks, it never fully holds again. And then I spoke a second time. It was a Monday. I filmed a short video at my office. Less than a minute long. I looked into the camera and said only this. Before you share someone's story of pain, ask yourself, have you heard the other side? No background music. No filters. Just the wall behind me where a framed photo hung. Ashley as a toddler, curled up in my lap, biting her finger, her eyes bright as glass marbles. I didn't explain. I didn't defend. The video was shared over 60,000 times. Some called it manipulative. Others said I wasn't dramatic enough. But a growing number of people began doing their own digging. One user found an old post on Ashley's account where she claimed she hadn't spoken to her mother in 10 years. But she'd also posted photos of her high school graduation gift, with a thank you to mom. Another claimed she bought her first designer coat with her own savings. But someone else unearthed a comment she'd once liked that said, "Thanks to mom for the New Year's gift, dream coat." Then came the real firestorm. Luke's involvement was exposed. Not by me. A marketing professional posted anonymously on a community forum, analyzing Ashley's content timeline. They mapped her viral growth, strategic sponsor placements, and traced payment links back to a small content agency, registered under Luke's name. But the match that lit the pile? A clip surfaced from an old podcast episode where Luke had said, "Emotion is currency. Nothing hits harder than daughters calling out their moms. Add a tear and boom, you're viral. It's a gold mine." That quote detonated in Ashley's comments section. "So you sold out your mom for clicks? This whole thing was a con? She bought you everything and you turned it into a sob story?" I didn't respond. But I released something. On my brand's official page, I posted a gallery titled, "A Decade of Deposits, A Mother's Quiet Record." Screenshots of wire transfers, tuition payments, rent checks. Proof that I hadn't missed a single step of her life. Originally, I kept those records for myself. Now they were part of the public archive. In the comments, women left messages that read, "She's not perfect, but she loved deeply. This reminds me of my own mom. Quiet, relentless love. Now I get it. Sometimes love isn't loud. It's never leaving." That evening, 2 unexpected messages landed in my inbox. One was from Ashley's high school guidance counselor. She wrote, "I always thought you were just another absentee parent. I was wrong. That was just someone else's version of your story. The other message was from a former intern in a women's employment program I had once sponsored. She wrote, "Your live stream reminded me of my mom. She wasn't there when I needed her most. But later in life I saw everything she did behind the scenes. I might finally be ready to forgive her." I sat at my desk reading those words, my heart in a storm. Forgiveness is never just a word. Its weight doesn't just belong to the one who was hurt. Sometimes it's carried by the one brave enough to say, "I'm willing to understand." Ashley wasn't there yet. Her account had gone noticeably quiet these past few days, but I knew better than to think it was over. This wasn't the end. It was just the first wave of damage control being forced into retreat. She was still spinning. Still fighting to preserve something. What she didn't realize was that what she'd lost wasn't just a bit of platform credibility. It was the fracture of something much deeper, something she might not even be able to name yet. Public doubt was only the beginning. My counterattack was far from finished. Because the truth is, she wanted to tell stories. So could I. If she wanted the public to watch me, then I'd make damn sure they saw her too. Ashley stayed silent for an entire week. No new videos, no updates, no reactions. She was either waiting or planning her next move. On the 7th day she finally messaged me. "Let's meet. I want to hear your side in person." No apology. No emotion. Just a neutral-sounding invitation, like two co-workers agreeing to debrief over coffee. But I recognized it immediately. This wasn't a gesture of reconciliation. It was an attempt to reset the frame, to stage a final scene where she could redirect the narrative, bring the story back under her control. Not this time. Not anymore. I replied simply, "You pick the place." She chose a high-end Italian restaurant. Expensive. Polished. Controlled. Ashley arrived fashionably late, perfectly made up, wearing the camel trench coat I'd given her for her birthday last year. She slid into the seat across from me, flipped open the menu like nothing had happened. "This place does a decent truffle risotto," she said casually. "Want to try it?" I didn't answer. She finally looked up, registering the tension. "What?" she asked, her tone hardening. "You agreed to meet. What's with the attitude?" "I showed up," I said, setting my purse down. "But I'm not here to mend anything." She snapped her menu shut and leaned back. "Then what are you here for?" "The future," I said calmly. "And finances." She lifted a brow, smirking like I'd just told her a joke. "So this is about money? We're settling the bill now." "Not settling," I said evenly. "Severing." A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "you're an adult now. I no longer have any legal or financial responsibility for you." She scoffed and rolled her eyes. "So this is your grand statement? Wiping your hands clean? You want me to thank you while you pretend to be the bigger person?" I didn't bite. I just smiled faintly. Then I reached into my bag and slid a document across the table. A notarized amendment to my estate plan. "I've already started the legal process," I said. "Effective immediately, you are no longer listed as a beneficiary." She stared at the document, her knuckles whitening. "You're insane," she muttered. "No," I said quietly. "I'm clearer than I've ever been." Her eyes darkened. Her jaw clenched. It was sinking in. This wasn't a bluff. This wasn't a threat. This was real. "You're abandoning me a second time," she said, teeth clenched. I met her gaze. "The first time I left to survive. And I swear to you, I fought for custody with everything I had. But this time, Ashley, this time you forced my hand." "Don't give me that," she snapped, her voice rising. "You threw money at me for years and expected me to be grateful." I looked at her. "Steady. Calm. You never cared what I had to say," she accused. "All you wanted was for me to shut up and behave. You didn't want a daughter. You wanted a quiet accessory to your perfect brand." Her voice trembled just beneath the fury. "You say you love me, but you don't even know me. Do you know how badly I needed you when I was 16? Do you think cards and presents were enough?" I didn't respond right away. Then I said quietly, "I thought I was respecting your space. I thought you didn't want me intruding. So I stepped back." "You never stepped in either," she shot back. "Now you want to cut me out completely, erase me like I never existed." I nodded once. If what you call existing means using me for content, weaponizing my love, and pushing me to bend over backward again and again, then yes, I'd rather erase it. She clenched her jaw and for a second, just a second, I saw the mask crack. You're saying I used you? She spat. What about you? You've been using me for years. Parading your struggle, playing the martyr, pretending you sacrificed everything to raise me, just to protect your precious image of the noble mother. I slowly stood looking down at her. I don't need an image, I said. Before all this, I never once brought up my past to anyone. What I'm doing now isn't for show. It's because I need you to stop treating me like a bank account, a storyline, a prop. Something flickered in her eyes, uncertainty, panic. So that's it, she asked. You're just cutting me off like this? I nodded. I gave you room. Again and again. You traded it for clicks and applause. I'll admit, I wasn't a perfect mother. But you were never an innocent child. You thought that just being my daughter gave you a lifelong pass to manipulate me. That ends today. Her eyes went red but no tears came. I picked up my bag and slung it over my shoulder. What you want, I said, is an audience. Not a mother. Charlotte, she snapped, deliberately using my name like a knife. You'll regret this. I turned, met her stare and said word by word. Regret is yours to carry. Then I walked out of that candlelit, carefully curated restaurant. She didn't follow. I turned the corner. Cold wind sliced through the collar of my coat, sharp and real, more honest than anything that had passed between us in that room. I should have realized sooner. To her, Mom was just a sticker. Useful for emotional packaging, easily peeled off when it stopped fitting the narrative. This wasn't the collapse of my motherhood. It was the final strip of illusion being torn away. Standing under the street lamp, I pulled out my phone and opened the lawyer's email I'd received an hour earlier. Your estate amendment request has been initiated. I had hoped she might lay low for a while, even just to save face. But not 48 hours later, Ashley was back. Streaming live. I sat on my couch, the TV on mute, remote in hand, but I didn't change the channel. The aesthetic was different this time. No more candlelight, intimacy. The background was her dorm desk, bare-faced, red-eyed like she'd just cried. She looked directly into the camera. Her voice was raw. My mom says she doesn't consider me her daughter anymore. She paused, bit her lip, carefully. I'm not as strong as I pretend. Maybe I said things I shouldn't have. Maybe I went too far putting our story online. But she's not innocent either. I tilted my head back and let out a bitter laugh. Luke's fingerprints were all over this. The emotional tempo, the deliberate vulnerability, the space left for the audience to fill in their own empathy. He was always the director, guiding Ashley to cry just enough, stumble just enough, confess just enough. The comments came fast. How can a mother be so cruel? This is just a family with no winners. If I were her, I'd be falling apart too. I didn't respond. I didn't go online to clarify. Thought I was done. But life has a way of handing you allies when you least expect it. By the third afternoon, a woman named Sophie Weller posted a video on X. She was once our neighbor, back when Ashley was little. A social worker who'd helped monitor Alan's household. The video wasn't polished. She sat in her kitchen, a kettle whistling softly behind her, camera slightly shaky. I couldn't stay quiet after seeing that live stream, she said. I saw Charlotte McNeil stand outside her ex-husband's house with a birthday cake in her hands, waiting hours just to hand it to her daughter. I remember the family wouldn't even open the door. Charlotte cried in my car for 30 minutes afterward. I also saw her packages get sent back unopened. Her daughter's grandmother said she wasn't allowed to accept anything. She paused, voice softer. She's not perfect. But she never gave up. Hours later, another voice joined in. Ashley's middle school English teacher. He posted. Charlotte called every year to ask about Ashley. When Ashley failed math one semester, she offered to pay for tutoring. Her offer was refused. Her father said it wasn't necessary. And just like that, Ashley's carefully constructed, abandoned daughter narrative began to unravel. One post at a time. One lived memory at a time. More damning still? Luke vanished. He set his account to private. Deleted every trace of Ashley from his feed. Photos gone. Mentions scrubbed. Like a fox catching wind of the hunt, he disappeared before the fallout could touch him. Ashley meanwhile stayed online. Still trying. Still performing. But the comments had changed. Even her old teachers are calling her out. How long can she keep this up? Your mom was there. It was your dad who kept her out. I felt so bad for you at first. But now. I'm starting to see through the cracks. On screen her gaze shifted. She was unraveling. I didn't lie, she stammered. I can't explain everything. Some things were complicated. I turned off the TV. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. But because I didn't need to watch her stall her own collapse. This wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. Ashley hadn't just lost control of the narrative. She'd lost to her own entitlement. You can't demand compassion and use it as currency. You can't twist silence into guilt and expect eternal forgiveness. And you certainly can't take a mother's quiet devotion and treat it like a backdrop for your sob story. I walked to my study. Opened the drawer. Inside was the last thing I'd ever meant to give her. A letter I'd written 3 years ago, sealed in a white envelope. Meant for her graduation. It said, "To my daughter when you are ready." I held it in my hands for a moment. Then tore it in two. I sat down at my laptop, opened the draft from my attorney. The file was labeled, Updated Will 2.0. And under that line I typed, "All personal assets to be transferred into the Independent Women's Resilience Fund. Former heir Ashley McNeil, permanently removed." I hit confirm. And for the first time in years, I exhaled. Time has a way of washing everything clean. Memories, pain, all of it. One morning, as usual, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee when a message from Cindy popped up on my phone. Just one line. "Her account's been taken down. Luke's probably done with her." I set my cup down and stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then I looked out the window. Sunlight filtered in through the kitchen blinds and landed softly across the back of my hand. It was warm. Just right. I didn't respond to Cindy. I didn't need to. Ashley's account being deactivated was only a matter of time. Her narrative had already collapsed. After Sophie and Ashley's former teacher came forward, more voices followed. Not with drama. Not to argue. Just quiet stories, offering another version of the mother Ashley never talked about. She couldn't hide anymore. But her real unraveling wasn't the deleted profile. It was the way people around her started stepping back. Luke was the first to disappear. He deleted every photo of them together. Even his LinkedIn was scrubbed. No more content strategist. Just student. A full digital retreat. I didn't bother checking if they broke up. I didn't care. They were never anything but co-conspirators, feeding off each other until the supply ran dry. The split was inevitable. As for her father, he didn't lift a finger. Word reached me that Ashley had reached out to Alan, asking for help managing her tuition now that she'd lost her brand deals. He reportedly texted back, "Didn't you say you didn't need parents? Go ask your mom." That was their relationship, transactional. Trust traded for control. Affection replaced by leverage. Now all her bargaining chips were worthless. Cindy told me later, Ashley had withdrawn from school. No official reason was given, but word among students was that she could no longer afford tuition, and couldn't bear the weight of being recognized for who she'd become online. I didn't verify it, because by then I had already stepped out of the loop. I spent 2 full weeks sorting through every piece of my personal and financial life. Accounts. Stocks. Real estate. Brand shares. Succession plans. Then I met with my lawyer and finalized the paperwork to fund something new. A women's support fund. I called it Second Voice. It wasn't created to comfort mothers. It wasn't to prove I was the one who was right. It was for women like me, who'd survived single parenthood, rebuilt from nothing, held it all in, and kept showing up anyway. I didn't want us to be reduced anymore. Not to absent mothers. Not to failed wives. Not to emotional middle-aged women. I wanted us to have space to speak. Even if it wasn't loud, at least loud enough to be heard. The advisory board came together fast. A group of sharp young women founders volunteered to join. They knew exactly what this fund needed to be. Our first meeting was held in a co-working space in the Bay Area. After it ended, I closed my notebook, gathered my things, and opened the door to leave. And there she was. Standing in the hallway in a baseball cap, head lowered. So, almost small. When she looked up, she froze, clearly not expecting to run into me. "I was wondering," she said, her voice quiet, If I could talk to you. Just for a minute. It took me a few seconds to recognize her. Jenna. Ashley's old college roommate. I remembered her. She looked hesitant but steady. I'm not here to defend her, she said quickly. I just thought you should know. She's not doing well. I didn't say anything. She tries sometimes, Jenna continued, frantically tries to get back into her accounts. To rebuild her platform. But no one's willing to help her anymore. I gave a slight nod. Thank you for telling me. She blinked as if she was expecting more. You don't want to see her? It's not that I don't want to, I said, pausing, voice calm. I just don't know if I can truly let her back in. Jenna bit her lip, looked away, then nodded softly. I understand. She walked down the hallway with featherlight steps, like she didn't want to disturb anyone's dream. I turned back and looked at the whiteboard in the meeting room. On it, written in thick marker, was a quote I'd shared at the kickoff session. If you don't speak your truth, you'll end up as a character in someone else's fiction. 5 years passed in a blink. That day I had just wrapped up a live panel interview. The weather was unexpectedly clear. I was gathering my notes and getting ready to leave when a young volunteer walked into the conference room and gently tapped the edge of the table. Miss Charlotte, there's someone outside asking for you. She said she's your daughter. My hand paused mid-motion. Not from shock but from that old, familiar ache. Like pressing down on a scar you forgot still remembers pain. I walked through the double doors and down a flower-lined path leading to the exit. There she was. Ashley stood just outside the venue looking awkward and unsure. Beside her was a small girl, 4 or 5 at most, with a head full of thick brown curls and a dress too bright to be casual. She'd clearly been dressed for the occasion. Ashley kept her head down, one hand resting lightly on the child's shoulder. I stopped a few feet in front of them. Said nothing. After a long beat, Ashley finally lifted her eyes. It's been a while, she said, trying for steady. This is Emma. She glanced at the girl, then back at me. She came with me. The little girl looked up and offered a shy, polite smile. Hi. I nodded, gaze shifting from Emma back to Ashley. You're not about to tell me she's your daughter, are you? Her eyes flickered. Just briefly. He could have nodded. Could have let the lie land. But instead she murmured, no. She's a friend's kid. I didn't press. Just gave a quiet, neutral The air between us dropped 10 degrees. She hadn't lied, not entirely. But she hadn't come clean either. He thought that showing up with a child might soften me. Might trigger that old maternal switch. But the moment she stood in front of me, she must have realized. I was no longer the mother who let love cloud her judgment. I looked down at the girl. How old are you, sweetheart? 4.5, she said earnestly. I crouched a little, touched her shoulder. Your dress is beautiful. She smiled, unsure what to say but clearly pleased. I straightened up and turned to Ashley again. Her eyes were rimmed red. Not crying, just raw. Like she'd realized too late that showing up without a script meant she didn't know what to say anymore. You didn't come for forgiveness, I said, steady. You came to see if there's still something left to salvage. She didn't deny it. Instead she looked down, then up again. You seem good. I am. He studied my face. Her voice when it came was small. Almost childlike. I've missed you. I didn't answer. We had played out so many versions of this conversation in my head. Some filled with screaming. Some with weeping. Some awkward, some soft. Now that it was here, none of them fit. They were all brittle pages, blown away by a breeze I didn't feel coming. So I just said gently, I hope one day you figure out how to live honestly. Not by collecting debt, not by playing roles, but by showing up as yourself. Maybe then we'll see each other more. Her lips tightened and she nodded once. We stood there for another moment. She didn't try to hug me. Didn't reach out. And I didn't offer to close the distance either. Then she turned, took Emma's hand and began to walk away. The girl looked back and gave me a tiny wave. I smiled and nodded in return. It wasn't until they disappeared past the edge of the flower beds that I let out a long breath. That little girl didn't belong to me. And Ashley no longer did either. But in that moment I understood something I'd never fully grasped before. I always thought cutting ties meant slamming a door shut and never turning around. But maybe true separation isn't about cutting off contact. It's cutting off the part of you that still believed she'd change. Still waited for things to return to the way they were. Still hoped for the version of her that never arrived. When I walked back into the venue, Jenna was still inside gathering materials. She looked up at me. Did she come? I nodded. She left. Jenna hesitated, then offered softly, You look quieter than you did earlier. I smiled. Maybe because I finally understood. Some losses are necessary. I packed up my bag and stepped into the light outside. The sun was still out. Somewhere not far off, children were laughing. Felt like another world. Change and forgiveness don't happen in a single moment. But for every mother who's walked through betrayal and come out clearer, know this. We don't have to be perfect to be complete. We don't need an apology to live fully. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to keep walking head high even if goodbye is the only thing we ever get.